But we cannot be impatient. We have to be patient, we have to build movements, and without those movements, I don't think we'll succeed. Thank you very much. Now the house is open for questions. Please, just 1 minute. Let me complete. Please make sharp questions and address to one of us, and we'll all respond at the end of it. So we'll collect the questions, and then we'll respond. Yeah, I think, where's the mic? The mic? No, there. Here, please.
My name is K.K. Chairman, Confederation of Group Housing Societies. Sir, very rightly you have said that we have to find solution to this problem. I can tell you, it is not the muscle power of political people, it is the muscle power of retired bureaucrats also. In our colony, that is Madhuban, this is all daily officers who are staying. Chief Secretary, Lieutenant Governor, and then judges, etc. Our roads, you know, 1/4 of our left side, 1/4 of right side have been occupied by putting a their kitchen garden and whatnot. I raised this point as a honorary secretary that this should be removed, this one. Then I got fed up. I wrote a letter to the editor in Hindustan Times, it was published. I said that anybody who has grabbed the political land should not be allowed to contest any election. Now that election can be of resident welfare association, that election can be of a society, that election can be of councillor or MLA or whatever you call it. But unfortunately, despite raising this point in my confederation or in Bhagidari meeting, I did not find any response to this at all.
So this causes. So I'll have Aradhana say a few words.
I thank Conclave for helping those children who need help, and I thank them for making this world a better place by helping the children. Thank you, and I thank the people for it. Thank you.
We were on the category of the civil society awards and will continue, but we also have the Artists for Change award, which is given to people who are musicians, who are movie stars, not for their being movie stars or musicians, but for the social justice work that they do. And I'm happy to welcome Kajal, who's one of our awardees this year. But before Kajal says a few words to you, we'll continue with the civil society category awards. We have a person who basically contested for the Lead India campaign, which was done by Times of India. And we have two of those people as awardees this year. One is Rajinder Mishra, who was the final winner. And he's actually started a big movement called Change India. It's basically about getting people to change their mindsets and say that we can be the change that we want.
When I left my corporate career 3 years ago, I was heading an organization of 12,000 people. Never realized that I'll be given awards and I'll be winning competitions. I truly appreciate. The reason I gave, because I just heard about this change in politics. I mean, we all are fed up with what is going on in politics, but when I talk to my corporate friends whose salaries are astronomical, as you know, everybody is cribbing about it. But you ask them, no, that's not for me. I mean, that's not for me. I mean, who wants to go to politics? Who wants to make a change? I think what I said, the best part is, and I was, I think, fortunate that I had made my financial goal, and of course there's no limit. I had a limit, and I reached that thing, and I thought, okay, fine. 40 was a very good age. I thought I'll work for the next 10 to 20 years, and potentially at maybe 60, I'll be somebody in the country, potentially in public policy or politics. I was planning to work for 10 years, so that people in the country know who I am, thanks to Times of India, which happened in 2 years. So now I kind of, I have several initiatives. One is the rural areas, urban areas. Idea is that each of us are capable of changing, trying to make a difference. I don't want to get into numbers, but we have made a huge difference. And I work as opposed to the NGOs, because NGOs are essentially the, as you said, the failure of the governance manifests in the NGO. So I would prefer to have few NGOs in this country, and hopefully government will do its job better so that we don't really need to replace the government. And so I advise several governments, I work with several parties in politics. Hopefully they will change, because that's where hopefully bigger change will come. And individually I have donated my personal time, wealth and efforts to make a change. And thank you very much, Jerry. It's a pleasant surprise for me to be here.
Like Rajendra, we have the same belief that you need fewer NGOs, but more effective, more impactful NGOs. You don't need those 1.7 million NGOs. You just need those 3%. You're somewhere in rural India working with or without any money and making a change. Anyway, that's Rajendra Mishra. We have this Dr. Ashok Rao, who works in the field of HIV, and I'm happy to say that Dr. Ashok Rao from Freedom Foundation. Ashok? Right. They'll come up stage. And Ashok founded the Freedom Foundation, one of the few NGOs based in Bangalore, but a movement which he started has now been adopted by UNAIDS for, and the model has been adopted in places in Africa and other places. I'll let Ashok tell you more about that.
Thank you, Jerry. It was indeed a pleasant surprise when you sent me that email and let me know that I've been nominated for this award. Well, basically, my journey into this whole thing of trying to become a responsible citizen of this country started, I suppose, about 25 years back. And it was really funny in a certain sense because the initiation was not in India. I was studying in the US, and in the late 80s, HIV was a big problem in the US. And it so happened that one of my very close friends, a young lady who happened to be studying with me, tested positive. And I experienced what happened to her and her family in the late 80s in the US. And if today we are talking about the sense of stigma and discrimination in India, it was most probably even more profound in those days in the US. There was also another issue that was very close to my heart, and that was what we call as substance abuse, alcoholism and drug addiction. And this again largely resulted from a certain sense of personal experience. My father, who was in the 80s, coming from a very, very successful business family down south, was also an alcoholic. And even though he recognized he had a problem and tried to seek help, he never found it. And unfortunately, he died in a hotel room with a bottle in his hand in Munich, Germany, where his business interests were taken. The net result of all this was when I returned back to India in 1990, I decided I needed to do something. I frankly had no idea what I was going to do. But I was also fortunate to meet a couple of young women who were also reportedly the first few cases that were tested in India. And I say I was fortunate because I spent many a wonderful evening with these women, two of them in particular, who were rescued from the red light area of Mumbai and were sent back to their respective states. And one of them was from Tamil Nadu and one was from Karnataka. I met them in the remand home. And it further sort of strengthened my resolve I had to do something about it. And as I said, I frankly had no idea what I was going to do. A friend of mine, Carl, who's no more today, he's passed away a few years back, and I decided to do something. I actually sold my music system because in the 80s or the 70s, one of the things you did when you came back from a trip abroad was to bring a nice music system. And that's all I had. I sold that, and I think I got about 15,000 rupees. And I started what's today called Freedom Foundation. We started in an abandoned chicken coop. And I think some of you go onto the internet, you'll see some stories about that. I still sit in one end of the chicken coop, but I must admit it's grown to a large organization called Freedom Foundation today. And if you look very closely, you might see some resemblance of that chicken coop. When we started, all we offered was just an environment of safety for people coming. And what we said was, we'll have a shelter over your head, food to eat, and companionship, because I actually stayed with them. And over the years, thousands, tens of thousands of people have gone through the various doors of Freedom Foundation. Today, from that abandoned chicken coop, it's grown to most probably being the largest civil society implementing agency in the substance abuse HIV sector in the country. And as Jerry said, paradoxically, some other developing countries have actually contracted us, especially in Nigeria and Botswana, to replicate our strategies. The foundation today reaches out to nearly about 75,000 people approximately every month, and we largely operate from the 5 southern states and in Nigeria and Botswana. I'm really happy to be receiving this award, Jerry, but I accept it on behalf of hundreds of children who have gone through the doors of Freedom Foundation. Many of them are no more today, and they have helped us learn so much about life, and in their memory, I accept this award. Thank you.
Various people in the civil society category, and another person we have is Mr. T.K. Matthew, who started the Palia years ago. He's doing excellent work with community development, not just child development, but rehabilitating the entire community and the family around the child. So the child gets a better ecosystem to kind of learn and grow. Mr. T.K. Matthew, please.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you, Jerry and Congo. In fact, 5 years back when Jerry started off, we also had some dialogue about it. My passion is 50 years old. I had the benefit of a Christian bringing up, and then I delved into the Gandhian thoughts, and I always keep the Gandhian talisman in front of me, because I felt I was always better off than large millions of people who are otherwise suffering, exploited, oppressed, whatnot. In fact, last 30 years I have actually spent major time of mine in the slums and streets, because I was very emotional. And I wanted to do something which will help the very poor. I will say a proper approach. And I have not failed. And I feel good because large number of children got education. I always believe that education is the fulcrum around which everything else revolves. And to give that education, which is inaccessible to large number of children, I felt is my basic duty and responsibility. And all kinds of people helped us. I could not do anything alone. I never believe anything can be done alone. And there is the whole civil society with us, the whole funding organizations with us, well-wishers with us, and virtually we have been able to see results of transformation, of empowerment. And of course, we have not even touched the tip of the iceberg. We have got to go a long way. And this award which is being given is a great blessing in the sense, as I said, it's not my merit. It is the merit of those large number of poor people living in the slum streets and rural villages who gave the kind of medium with which we could